The diplomatic chamber on Zenith Station was cold. Kazira stood in the center of the circular room and felt the chill through her golden scales. She had traveled for 3 months to reach this place. 3 months alone in a small ship, crossing the dark space between her dying homeworld and this massive station where 100 different species lived and worked together. She was 7 feet tall, with scales that gleamed gold and crimson in the harsh station lights. Her wings were folded tight against her back, hidden beneath the formal robes she wore. Her tail moved slowly behind her, the only sign of her nervousness. Her amber eyes watched the door where her future husband would enter. Kazira was 487 years old. For her people, the Drakari, this was considered old for marriage. Most Drakari women married before they turned 300, but her family had fallen on hard times. Her father, once a great military commander, had made bad decisions in war. His campaigns failed. The family lost money and honor. Now Kazira was the last of her bloodline, the last hope to restore the family name. This arranged marriage was supposed to save everything. Lord Ketheric Velsharn was young by Drakari standards, only 320 years old. His family was wealthy and powerful. When they agreed to the marriage contract, Kazira had felt relief. She would do her duty. She would marry this man she had never met. Her family's name would survive. The door opened. Lord Ketheric entered with 5 warriors behind him. He wore armor that shone like black mirrors. His scales were pure obsidian, perfect and unmarked. He was tall and strong, moving with the confidence of someone who had never known failure. His eyes swept the room and landed on Kazira. For a moment, everything was silent. Kazira bowed her head in the traditional greeting. She waited for him to speak first, as custom demanded. Her heart beat fast in her chest. This was the moment that would decide her future. Lord Ketheric's lip curled in disgust. He did not return her bow. Instead, he walked in a slow circle around her, examining her like someone might examine livestock at a market. Kazira kept her eyes down, her face calm. But inside, fear began to grow. Finally, Ketheric spoke. His voice was loud and filled with contempt. Every word hit Kazira like a physical blow. This is what my family contracted? This ancient creature? Look at her. Her scales are faded. Her wings show signs of wear. She is past her prime, past any use. I was told I would receive a bride worthy of my status. This is an insult to my lineage. Kazira felt her face burn with shame. Around the room, other Drakari whispered and nodded in agreement. She wanted to defend herself, to explain that her scales were faded because she had spent 200 years serving in the fleet, fighting in battles to protect their empire, but she remained silent. Speaking now would only make things worse. Ketheric turned to face his warriors. I reject this marriage contract. Let it be known that the House of Velsharn will not accept damaged goods. If her family wishes to preserve the agreement, they will send someone younger, someone worthy. One of the station officials, a nervous-looking alien with blue skin, stepped forward. My lord, the contract is legally binding. If you reject the bride without cause, your family will owe compensation. Ketheric laughed. It was a cruel sound. Without cause. Look at her. The cause is obvious to anyone with eyes. But very well. According to ancient Drakari law, a rejected bride must stand penance. She will stand in this spot for 24 hours. She cannot speak, sit, or leave. If no one claims her in that time, she loses all noble status. She becomes houseless without name or honor. This is the law. The official looked uncomfortable but nodded. The law is recognized. Kazira felt the world tilt around her. Houseless. The worst fate a Drakari noble could face. Without a house, she would be nothing. She could not own property, could not testify in courts, could not even enter most Drakari worlds. She would be erased from society as completely as if she had died. But she had no choice. She stood straight and tall, placing her feet in the formal position. She folded her hands in front of her. Her face became a mask, showing nothing. This was how a Drakari warrior faced defeat. With dignity, even when there was no hope, Ketheric and his warriors left. The official left. Soon the chamber was empty except for Kazira. The door remained open to the station's main corridor. Anyone passing by could see her standing there. Many did, some stared openly. Others pretended not to notice. A few laughed and made jokes to their companions. Hours passed. Kazira's legs began to ache. The cold of the chamber seeped into her bones. She was thirsty, but she could not drink. She was tired, but she could not sit. She was humiliated, but she could not hide. She simply stood and endured. In the corridor outside, life went on. Merchants pushed carts full of goods. Families walked past on their way to the entertainment decks. Workers hurried to their shifts. The station was alive with the noise and energy of thousands of beings living their lives. And Kazira stood alone, a statue of shame. That was when Jake Morrison walked past the chamber. Jake was on his way back from a frustrating meeting with a parts dealer who had tried to cheat him. He was tired and annoyed. He was thinking about the long flight back to New Montana and all the work waiting for him. He almost did not notice the Drakari woman standing in the diplomatic chamber, but something made him stop and look. Maybe it was the absolute stillness of her posture. Maybe it was the way everyone else was carefully not looking at her. Jake had spent enough years on the frontier to recognize when someone was in trouble. He was a human, which meant most other species considered him unremarkable. Humans were newcomers to the galaxy. Barely 200 years into space travel, they were not as strong as the Drakari, not as smart as the Zilani, not as wealthy as the Karathi. They were just humans trying to make their way. Jake was 38 years old, tall and lean from years of hard work. His hair was brown, lightened by sun and dust. He wore practical clothes that looked a bit like the old cowboy outfits from Earth's history, modified for space station environments. His face was weathered, with lines around his eyes from squinting at bright horizons. He stood in the corridor and watched the Drakari woman. She did not move, did not acknowledge the people walking past. Her amber eyes stared straight ahead at nothing. Jake walked up to a station worker who was cleaning nearby. "Excuse me? What's going on with her?" The worker glanced at the chamber and then away quickly. Drakari marriage ritual. She was rejected by her intended husband. Now she stands penance for 24 hours. It is their custom. Best not to interfere. What happens after 24 hours? Jake asked. The worker shrugged. If no one claims her, she loses her status, becomes houseless. It is a great shame among their people. Now please, I must finish my work. Jake watched the worker hurry away. He looked back at the Drakari woman. She still had not moved. He checked his watch. The worker had said she had been standing for 6 hours already. That meant 18 more to go. Something about the situation bothered Jake. It reminded him of things he had seen back on Earth before he left. People being punished publicly. People being shamed for things that were not really their fault. He had never liked it then. He did not like it now, but what could he do? This was not his culture. He did not understand all the customs and laws, and he had his own problems to deal with. His ranch was struggling. He had debts to pay. He needed to get home and get back to work. Jake turned to leave. He made it about 10 steps before he stopped. He stood there in the corridor, people flowing around him like water around a rock. He cursed under his breath. Then he turned back around. He could not just walk away. His parents had raised him better than that. On the frontier, you looked out for people. You stood up when things were wrong. It did not matter if it was convenient or easy. It mattered that you did it. Jake went to a nearby shop and bought a folding chair and a thermos of coffee. He came back to the diplomatic chamber and set up the chair in the corridor, right where he could see the Drakari woman. He sat down, poured himself a cup of coffee, and made himself comfortable. If she had to stand there alone, at least someone would be nearby. At least someone would witness what was happening to her. Hours passed. Jake sat in his chair and watched the station move around them. Sometimes he read on his datapad. Sometimes he just thought about things. And sometimes he talked. He knew the woman could not respond. She was not allowed to speak. But Jake talked anyway. He told her about New Montana, his colony world. He described the wide plains and the way the dust storms looked like red curtains across the sky. He talked about his ranch, the animals he raised, the machines that always seemed to break at the worst times. "I've got this one piece of equipment," he said at one point. "Terraforming processor. Cost me half a year's income. Broke down after 2 months. Can't get parts for it because the company went out of business. Can't afford a new one. So I've been trying to fix it with spare parts and hope. That's frontier life for you. Nothing ever works quite right, but you make it work anyway." He paused to drink his coffee. "You know what I've learned out there? Age doesn't matter as much as people think. I've got equipment that's 50 years old and still runs better than the new stuff. I've got animals that lived through things that should have killed them. They're tougher because they survived. Stronger because they endured. Jake did not know if she was listening. Her expression never changed. Her. The Endeavour docked at Earth's main orbital station 3 days later. Jake Morrison walked through the familiar corridors, feeling both relief and worry. Home felt good, but the weight of what he knew pressed down on him. The Zhark were coming, and time was running out. Admiral Peter Hughes was waiting for him in a secure meeting room. The Admiral was 60 years old, gray-haired, and built like a tank. He had fought in Earth's last major war 20 years ago. His face showed every hard decision he had ever made. "Show me everything," Hughes said without greeting. Jake pulled up all the data from the Kepler threshold. The recordings played on multiple screens. Hundreds of Zhark warships, weapons charging, supplies being moved between vessels. It was clearly an invasion force. Hughes watched in silence. When the recordings ended, he sat back in his chair. "How long do we have?" "Best guess? 6 months. Maybe less," Jake answered. "They're almost ready. And the coalition is doing nothing? Worse, they don't believe us. They think we're making it up or seeing things that aren't there." Hughes slammed his fist on the table. "Those arrogant fools. 3,000 years of peace made them forget what real danger looks like." The door opened and 3 more people entered. Dr. Nathan Cross was a thin man with messy black hair and glasses. He was humanity's top scientist working on alien technology. Colonel Maya Stevens walked beside him, a strategic planner with a sharp mind for military operations. Behind them came Commander Lisa Grant, looking exhausted from her trip from Coalition headquarters. "I tried everything," Lisa said immediately. "The elder races won't even discuss it. The Velkari called me emotional. The Mothalan said humans need to learn patience and stop seeing enemies everywhere. Then we're on our own," Hughes said flatly. "Nathan, can we fight them?" Dr. Cross pulled up his own data. "The Zhark use quantum disruption weapons. They can tear through Coalition shields like paper. That's probably how they beat the Elder races last time until the Elder races found a counter. But that was thousands of years ago. The Coalition hasn't updated their defensive technology since then. They think their shields are perfect." "What about human shields?" Maya asked. Nathan smiled slightly. "That's the interesting part. We've been developing adaptive shielding based on old submarine and aircraft carrier defense principles from Earth. The technology is experimental, but it might work. The aliens never thought of it because they rely too much on their old systems." "How long to retrofit our fleet?" Hughes asked. "If we work around the clock?" 4 months for 37 ships. That's everything combat-ready that humans have." Hughes nodded slowly. "Do it. Maya, start planning defensive strategies. Jake, you'll command the operation. Lisa, I need you to keep trying with the Coalition. Maybe one species will listen." "There is one," Lisa said quietly. "Ambassador Teveen of the Mothalan. She's different from the others. Younger, less stuck in old ways. She's coming to Earth tomorrow to demand we stop our military buildup." "Then we convince her," Hughes decided. "If we can get even one Coalition voice on our side, it might help later." The meeting ended and everyone went to work. Jake spent the next few weeks coordinating with ship captains across the human fleet. Most of them were excited to finally do something real instead of boring patrols. A few were scared. All of them were ready to fight. Amy Foster worked closely with Dr. Cross, helping install the new shield systems. She understood the tactical side better than most engineers. "The key is adaptation," she explained to a group of technicians. "The Zhark weapons hit hard, but they hit the same way every time. Our shields can adjust in real time. It's not about being stronger. It's about being smarter." Carlos Bennett, a talented engineer with a gift for solving impossible problems, found ways to speed up the installation process. "We don't need perfect," he said. "We need good enough, and we need it fast." Ambassador Teveen arrived on Earth as promised. She was tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. The Mothalan were known for their diplomatic skills and psychic abilities. Teveen had been working with the Coalition for 50 years, which made her young by her species standards. She met with Hughes, Jake, Lisa, and Nathan in the same secure room. Her expression was stern. "Humanity is building warships without Coalition approval. This violates several treaties. You could be expelled from the Alliance." "Show her," Hughes said simply. Nathan played all the recordings again. He showed the Zhark fleet, the energy readings, the movement patterns. He presented analysis of their weapons and technology. He laid out everything in clear, undeniable detail. Tavine watched without speaking. Her shimmer dimmed slightly, which Jake had learned meant she was troubled. When the presentation ended, she stood and walked to the window, looking down at Earth. "If this is true," she said slowly, "then my people and the other elder races are making a terrible mistake." "It's true," Jake said firmly. "I saw it with my own eyes." Tavine turned to face them. Why would they lie about this? The Velkari have no reason to hide a Zark threat. "They're not lying," Nathan explained. "They're blind. They've been in power so long that they can't imagine anything challenging them. They see what they want to see. It's happened to every great civilization in Earth's history." "What you're doing is dangerous," Tavine said. "If you act without coalition approval and you're wrong, humanity will be destroyed politically. If we don't act and we're right, humanity will be destroyed literally," Hughes replied. "Along with everyone else." Tavine was silent for a long moment. Finally she spoke. "I cannot officially support this. My government would recall me immediately. But I will not stop you, and I will send word to younger members of other species, those who might listen where the elder races will not. That's all we ask," Hughes said. "I will also stay on Earth and observe your preparations. If the Zark come and you are ready, it will prove human intuition has value. The Coalition needs to learn that wisdom is not measured only in years." Over the next 4 months, the human fleet transformed. 37 ships received new shields, upgraded weapons, and enhanced sensors. Crews trained day and night on new combat tactics. Maya Stevens created detailed battle plans based on the Zark formation patterns they had observed. Jake spent time with each crew, learning their strengths and weaknesses. He knew every captain by name. He knew which ships were best for direct combat and which were better for support. He was building an army from scratch, and he refused to waste a single person. Amy Foster studied everything about the Zark. She read old Coalition records that most people had forgotten. She found details about their command structure, their communication methods, their tendency to follow rigid formations. "They're disciplined," she told Jake. "That's their strength and their weakness. If we can disrupt their command chain, they'll fall apart." Carlos Bennett kept finding small improvements: faster shield calibration, better power distribution, stronger hull reinforcement. Each change was minor, but together they added up to something significant. Dr. Cross worked with Tavine, sharing human technology and learning about Coalition science. Despite her official neutrality, Tavine helped however she could. She taught them about Zark psychology. She explained how the elder races had defeated them before. Finally, the fleet was ready, 37 human ships all upgraded and prepared. It wasn't much compared to the massive Zark invasion force, but it was something. Hughes gathered all the captains for a final meeting. "We're calling this Operation Guardian," he announced, "because if we fail, there's nobody left to guard the galaxy. You're heading to the Kepler threshold. You'll set up a defensive position and wait. When the Zark come, you hold them as long as possible. Give us time to warn the Coalition. Give us time to make them believe." Jake stood and faced his fellow captains. "I won't lie to you. This is probably a suicide mission. We're outnumbered 10 to 1, maybe worse. But we're human. We've survived worse odds before, and we're not doing this for glory or honor. We're doing this because it's right." The fleet departed the next day. Ambassador Tavine stood with Admiral Hughes watching them go. "I hope you're right about this," she said softly. "So do I," Hughes replied. "So do I." The 37 human ships jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading toward the Kepler threshold. Heading toward war. Heading toward their destiny. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Endeavour looking at the stars, and wondered if any of them would survive what was coming. The transport ship approached Arcturus Prime 3 days later. From space, the planet looked beautiful. Blue oceans, white clouds, huge cities that glowed at night. It was the center of the Galactic Federation, home to billions of aliens from 100 different species. And somewhere down there was the central communication relay, the key to warning every human in the galaxy. Kyle sat in the cargo hold with his team. Danny had assembled 6 people for the mission. All of them knew they probably wouldn't survive. Jake Murphy was a former soldier who had served in the Federation's security forces. He was big, quiet, and knew how to fight. Nicole Rivers was a hacker who used to work for Federation intelligence before she got tired of their lies. Sam Torres was a pilot who had flown supply runs to Arcturus dozens of times and knew the planet's defenses. Lisa, Peter, and Amy completed the team. They had all insisted on coming despite the danger. "Remember the plan," Jake said, checking his weapons. "We land at the commercial port. We're maintenance workers hired to repair equipment at the relay station. Nicole gets us through security. We access the relay, send the broadcast, and get out before anyone realizes what happened." "And if something goes wrong?" Amy asked. Jake looked at her. "Then we fight our way out. Or we die trying." The ship landed without incident. Sam had fake work orders that got them through the first security checkpoint. They loaded their equipment onto a transport and headed into the city. Arcturus Prime was massive. Buildings reached into the sky like mountains. Flying vehicles filled the air. Aliens of every shape and size walked the streets. Kyle had never seen so many different species in one place. The relay station was in the government district, surrounded by high walls and guard towers. Getting in wouldn't be easy. They arrived at the main gate. A Valdari guard stopped them. "Work orders," the guard said, holding out his hand. Sam gave him the fake documents. The guard scanned them with a device. For a moment, Kyle thought they were caught. Then the device beeped green. "Sector 7, Relay Room 3, the guard said. "You have 2 hours." They drove inside. The relay station was huge, filled with equipment and workers. Nobody paid attention to a maintenance crew. They looked like they belonged there. They found Relay Room 3 and set up their equipment. Nicole pulled out her computer and started hacking into the system. Peter and Lisa watched the door. Jake and Kyle stood ready in case guards showed up. Amy stayed with the transport, ready for a quick escape. "How long?" Kyle asked Nicole. 10 minutes to break the encryption. Then I can upload the broadcast." They waited. Every second felt like an hour. Kyle kept expecting alarms to sound, guards to burst in, everything to fall apart. "I'm in," Nicole said finally. "Starting the upload now." The files began transferring. Video evidence of the massacre, documents showing Valdari orders, lists of the 800,000 dead children, all of it flooding through the relay to every human colony in the galaxy. Kyle had recorded a message to go with the evidence. His voice would be the first thing people heard. "To all humans in Federation space. My name is Kyle Morrison. What you're about to see is proof that the Valdari Empire murdered 800,000 of our children 20 years ago. The plague was not natural. It was genocide. And they're planning to do it again. They want to kill all of us. This is not a lie. This is not a mistake. This is the truth. You need to escape now. The coordinates are attached. We have ships waiting. Don't trust the Federation. Don't believe their lies. Run or die. This is not a drill. This is our last warning." "Upload complete," Nicole said. "The message is going out to every human colony. Everyone will receive it in the next few minutes." Kyle felt a moment of relief. They had done it. The truth was out. Then the alarms started. Red lights flashed throughout the building. A voice came over the speakers, speaking in the Valdari language. Kyle didn't understand the words, but he knew what they meant. "Lockdown. Intruders detected. Security forces incoming. Time to go," Jake said, pulling out his weapon. They ran for the exit. Guards appeared at the end of the corridor. Jake fired and the guards scattered for cover. The team kept moving, fighting their way through the building. More guards arrived. Peter threw a device that exploded in a burst of light and noise, blinding and deafening the guards temporarily. They ran past while the guards recovered. They reached the transport where Amy was waiting. She had the engines running. "Go, go, go," Jake shouted. The transport lurched forward. Guards fired at them, bullets hitting the armored sides. Amy drove straight through the gate, smashing it aside. Behind them, more security vehicles were giving chase. Military aircraft appeared in the sky above. "We need to get to the ship," Sam said, checking his navigation. "The spaceport is 10 kilometers away." "We're not going to make it," Lisa said, looking at the pursuing vehicles. Jake looked at Kyle. "Someone needs to slow them down. Buy the rest of you time to escape." "No," Kyle said. "We all make it or none of us do." "That's not how this works," Jake said. He grabbed his weapons and opened the back door of the transport. "Tell people what we did here. Make sure they remember." Before anyone could stop him, Jake jumped out. He rolled to his feet and started firing at the pursuing vehicles. One of them swerved and crashed. Another slowed down. "Keep driving," Jake shouted over the radio. "Don't stop!" Amy pushed the transport faster. Kyle watched through the back window as Jake fought. He took down 3 more vehicles before the guards overwhelmed him. Kyle saw him fall. They reached the spaceport. Their ship was waiting, engines already warming up. They abandoned the transport and ran for the ship. Military fighters were scrambling to intercept them. Sam got them into the air just as the fighters arrived. Missiles streaked past. Sam dodged and weaved, pushing the ship to its limits. "I need 30 seconds to charge the hyperspace drive," Peter shouted from engineering. "We don't have 30 seconds," Sam shouted back. More fighters were coming. The ship shook as a missile exploded nearby. Alarms blared. Systems were failing. 20 seconds, Peter said. Sam flew into a cloud bank, using the dense vapor to break the fighters' target locks. The ship rattled and groaned. Metal screamed as the hull took damage. 10 seconds, a fighter got a clear shot. A missile hit them directly. The ship spun out of control. Amy grabbed the controls and tried to stabilize them. "Drive ready. Jump now," Peter shouted. Kyle hit the button. The ship jumped into hyperspace half a second before another missile would have destroyed them. They were safe. But Jake was dead. The crew sat in silence as the ship traveled through hyperspace. Nobody knew what to say. They had succeeded, but the cost was high. Nicole checked her computer. The broadcast reached everyone. Every human colony received the message. It's spreading across the galaxy now. Even non-human species are seeing it. Kyle pulled up news feeds from across the galaxy. The response was immediate and chaotic. Human colonies were in uproar. Some people believed the message immediately. Others thought it was propaganda. Some alien species expressed horror at the evidence. Others defended the Valdari. The Valdari government issued a statement. They called the broadcast terrorist propaganda. They said the videos were fake. They ordered all human colonies to remain calm and stay in their homes. Planetary lockdowns were being implemented for everyone's safety. But it was too late. The truth was out. And across 50 systems, the evacuation was already beginning. Catherine contacted them an hour later. Her face appeared on the screen and she looked exhausted. "You did it," she said. "The message is everywhere. People are moving. The evacuation is accelerating. How many can we save?" Kyle asked. Catherine's expression darkened. "Not enough. The Valdari are moving faster than we expected. They're deploying fleets to blockade human colonies. Some settlements are already trapped. We estimate 3 million might escape. The rest will be caught. 1 million people trapped. 1 million people who would die because they couldn't escape in time. We need to buy them more time," Lisa said. "How?" Peter asked. "We're a cargo ship with a few weapons. The Valdari have entire battle fleets." Kyle thought about Jake's sacrifice. One person buying time for others to escape. Maybe that's what they all needed to do now. Fight back, not to win, but to give people time to run. "We fight," he said. "We organize a defense. We hit the Valdari where it hurts and make them slow down." Catherine looked at him through the screen. "You're talking about war." "They already started the war," Kyle said. 20 years ago when they killed our children. We're just fighting back now." The evacuations were chaos. Across 50 systems, humans abandoned their homes and ran for the ships. Families packed whatever they could carry. Children cried. Parents made impossible choices about what to leave behind. Some colonies succeeded. Hidden transport ships, disguised as mining vessels for years, revealed their true purpose. They loaded thousands of refugees and jumped to unknown space. The Valdari never saw them coming. Other colonies weren't so lucky. Valdari warships arrived before the evacuation finished. They blockaded the planets and trapped millions of people on the surface. The people could only watch as their escape ships were destroyed before they could launch. Kyle watched the reports from Catherine's command ship. Every update brought more bad news. Colony Epsilon trapped with 200,000 people. Station Helios successfully evacuated 50,000. Mining outpost Crimson Dawn fighting a ground invasion. Agricultural world New Terra still evacuating 1 million people while 500,000 waited their turn. The numbers were terrible. They might save 3 million, but 1 million would die. "We can't outrun them," Peter said, looking at the tactical displays. "The Valdari fleets are too fast. They're cutting off every escape route." Kyle knew Peter was right. Running wasn't enough. They needed to fight back to slow down the Valdari forces and buy time for the evacuations. But humans weren't warriors. They were miners, farmers, factory workers. They had no warships, no weapons, no training. Peter suddenly looked up from his computer. "Wait, we do have weapons. We just never thought of them that way." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "Mining equipment. We've been using it for decades. Drilling lasers powerful enough to cut through asteroids. explosives strong enough to crack open mountains, ships designed to push rocks the size of buildings. We have an entire industrial fleet that could be converted into weapons. Kyle understood immediately. The human colonies had thousands of mining vessels, ore haulers, drilling ships, excavation equipment. None of it was designed for combat, but all of it was built tough and strong. Can it work? He asked. Peter grinned. Only one way to find out. Catherine contacted every mining operation in human space. The response was immediate. Miners understood the plan right away. They had the tools and the knowledge. All they needed was the courage to fight. And courage was something humans had plenty of. These were people who worked in the most dangerous environments in the galaxy. They faced vacuum radiation and asteroid storms every day. Fighting aliens wasn't much different. The conversion began. Ore haulers were fitted with missile racks loaded with mining explosives. Drilling lasers were mounted on turrets. Tugboats designed to push asteroids became ram ships. Industrial shielding was reinforced to provide basic armor. They weren't proper warships, but they were something. And something was better than nothing. The first test came at Colony Epsilon. 200,000 people were trapped there, surrounded by a Valdari fleet of 50 warships. The evacuation ships couldn't break through the blockade. Kyle volunteered to lead the defense. He assembled 20 converted mining ships and prepared to attack a force more than twice their size. "This is insane," Amy said as they approached the Valdari fleet. "We're going to die." "Probably," Kyle agreed. "But we're going to take some of them with us. And we're going to buy time for those people to escape." The Valdari saw them coming. They probably thought it was funny. A handful of mining ships against military warships. It should have been a massacre. But Kyle had studied mining operations his entire life. He knew how to use terrain, how to set traps, how to make the environment work for you, and the asteroid field around Colony Epsilon was the perfect terrain. The human ships dove into the asteroid field. The Valdari followed, confident in their superior weapons and armor. They didn't know the humans had spent weeks rigging the asteroids with explosives. The first Valdari cruiser passed between two large asteroids. Peter pressed a button. The asteroids exploded, sending fragments into the cruiser at high velocity. The armor held, but the ship was knocked off course, crashing into another asteroid. The other Valdari ships spread out, trying to avoid the traps. That's when the human ships attacked. They used their knowledge of the field to ambush from behind asteroids. Drilling lasers cut into vulnerable engine sections. Mining charges exploded against hull plating. The Valdari fought back, but they were in unfamiliar territory. The humans knew every rock, every hiding spot, every angle of attack. What should have been an easy victory became a nightmare. A tugboat piloted by a miner named Carlos rammed directly into a Valdari destroyer. The impact destroyed both ships, but it created an opening for 3 evacuation transports to break through the blockade. An ore hauler commanded by a woman named Sophie used its cargo of explosive-filled containers as giant bombs. She released them near a cluster of Valdari ships, then detonated them remotely. 2 frigates and a cruiser were heavily damaged. Kyle led his ship in a dangerous game of cat and mouse with a Valdari battleship. He used the asteroids for cover, popping out to fire his drilling laser at the bigger ship's weapon systems, then disappearing before it could return fire effectively. The battle lasted 3 hours. 10 human ships were destroyed. Dozens of miners died. But the Valdari fleet was broken. They had lost 15 ships and retreated to regroup. More importantly, the evacuation completed. 200,000 people escaped while the Valdari were dealing with the unexpected resistance. News of the victory spread quickly. Other colonies took heart. Humans could fight back. They could win. More mining ships were converted into improvised warships. More colonies organized defenses. The pattern repeated across a dozen systems. Humans using guerrilla tactics, fighting from asteroid fields and nebula clouds, hitting hard and disappearing before the Valdari could respond. The Valdari High Council was furious. They had expected easy targets. Instead, they were losing ships to miners with improvised weapons. It was embarrassing. Commander Theron Vex, the Valdari officer who had overseen the original genocide, was assigned to crush the human resistance. He was efficient and ruthless. He didn't make the same mistakes as the other commanders. Vex studied the human tactics. He learned their patterns, and then he adapted. He sent scout drones ahead to detect traps. He used long-range bombardment to clear asteroid fields before entering them. He deployed overwhelming force against any resistance. The human victories slowed. More ships were destroyed. More people were trapped. Catherine sent Kyle an urgent message. "We've evacuated 2.5 million people, but there are still 1.5 million trapped across 20 colonies. Vex is closing in on all of them. We don't have enough ships to defend them all." Kyle looked at the map. The remaining colonies were scattered across the galaxy. Defending all of them was impossible. "We need to make a choice," Peter said quietly. "We can't save everyone." Lisa refused to accept that. "There has to be a way. We can't just abandon them." But Kyle knew Peter was right. They didn't have enough resources to defend 20 colonies. They would have to focus on the ones they could save and accept the loss of the others. Then Amy spoke up. "What if we don't try to save all of them? What if we focus on one target? Something so important that it forces the Valdari to pull forces away from the colonies." "What target?" Kyle asked. Amy pulled up a star map and pointed to a system near the center of Valdari space. "Arcturus Prime, their capital world. The seat of their government." The room went silent. "You want to attack their capital?" Peter said. "That's suicide." "Exactly," Amy said. "It's so crazy they won't expect it. And if we hit them there, if we threaten their homeworld, they'll have to pull their fleets back to defend it. That gives the colonies time to evacuate." Kyle thought about it. It was insane. Arcturus Prime was the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. Attacking it with a fleet of mining ships was certain death, but it might work. Not to conquer the planet or win a battle, just to scare the Valdari enough that they pulled their forces back. "We'd need every ship we have," Lisa said. "Every converted miner, every armed transport, everything." 500 ships, Catherine said over the communication link. "That's what we have left, against the 1,000 ships defending Arcturus." "We don't need to win," Kyle said. "We just need to make them afraid. Show them that humans can reach their home world. Make them realize we're not victims anymore." Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I'll send out the call. Every ship, every crew. We attack Arcturus Prime." The message went out across the human fleet. The response was immediate. Miners, traders, farmers, factory workers. People who had never fought before volunteered to attack the enemy capital. They knew they probably wouldn't survive. But they also knew that their sacrifice might save millions of others. The fleet assembled near the Galactic Rim. 500 ships, none of them built for war, but all of them carrying people who were ready to fight. Kyle looked at his crew. Lisa, Peter, Amy, Nicole, Sam, Danny. They had all come so far. Found the evidence, broadcast the truth, organized the resistance. Now they were going to finish what they started. "Ready?" he asked. They all nodded. "Then let's show the galaxy what happens when you hunt humanity," Kyle said. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading straight for the heart of the Valdari Empire. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Arcturus system. 500 ships faced the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Sensors showed over 1,000 Valdari warships defending the capital planet. It should have been terrifying, and it was. But Kyle felt something else too. Pride. These were ordinary people who had become warriors because they had no choice. Miners and farmers standing against an empire. Nicole had hacked into the Federation's emergency broadcast system one more time. Every species in the galaxy was watching. They would all see what happened next. Kyle opened a channel to the entire fleet. His words would be recorded, broadcast, and remembered. "To all who are watching, you killed our children. 800,000 of them. You hunted us like animals. You thought we were weak because we didn't fight back. You were wrong." He paused, looking at the Valdari fleet ahead. "We remember every child, every parent, every lost soul. Today you learn what humans become when you take everything from us. We are leaving your galaxy, but first we want you to remember us. We want every species to know this truth. Never hunt humanity. Never massacre our children, because we will burn your worlds to ashes before we let you forget." The human fleet charged forward. They didn't have military formations or tactical precision. They had desperation and rage. They had nothing left to lose. The Valdari defenders reacted with shock. These primitives were attacking their capital. The pride of the Empire was under assault by what they had considered livestock. But shock turned to alarm as the humans proved they weren't easy targets. Mining lasers tore through defensive stations. Explosive-laden ships rammed into orbital platforms. Tugboats pushed asteroids toward military installations. The Valdari fought back with overwhelming firepower. Human ships exploded by the dozens. The losses were terrible, but the survivors kept coming, kept fighting, kept pushing forward. Kyle's ship dove through the defensive line, dodging fire from 3 cruisers. Lisa targeted a shipyard with their remaining missiles. The explosions lit up the darkness of space. Peter rerouted all power to the engines and weapons. The ship groaned under the strain, but it kept moving. Amy piloted through debris fields that would have stopped most crews. Across the battlefield, human crews fought with incredible courage. A ore hauler captain named Rachel flew directly into a battleship's bridge, sacrificing herself to take out the enemy commander. A tugboat pilot named Gary used his ship's towing cables to pull 2 Valdari frigates into each other. The humans weren't trying to conquer Arcturus. They were making a statement, showing the galaxy that humanity could reach the Valdari homeworld, that even the mighty Empire wasn't safe from human vengeance. Commander Vex watched from his flagship in orbit. He had expected this to be easy. These were mining ships crewed by untrained civilians. They should have been destroyed in minutes. Instead, he was watching his forces struggle against an enemy that refused to break. An enemy that fought with a desperation he had never encountered before. "Target their command ship," Vex ordered, pointing at Kyle's vessel on the tactical display. "Kill their leader and they'll fall apart." 3 battleships converged on Kyle's position. Their combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. Kyle saw them coming. "We can't survive that," Peter said, looking at the sensors. "We don't have to survive," Kyle said. "We just have to hurt them." He checked the tactical map. Vex's flagship was behind the 3 battleships, directing the battle. It was heavily armored and protected, but Kyle saw an opening. "Everyone to the escape pods," Kyle ordered. "I'm going to ram that flagship." "No," Lisa said. "We're staying with you." "That's an order." "We don't take orders anymore," Peter said. "We're in this together." Kyle looked at his crew. They had been through so much together. Found the truth, broadcast the warning, fought impossible battles. He couldn't ask them to sacrifice themselves, but he also knew they wouldn't leave. They were his crew, his friends, his family. "Amy, get us past those battleships," he said. "Peter, overload the reactor. When we hit that flagship, I want the explosion to be big enough that people see it from the surface." The ship accelerated to maximum speed. The 3 battleships opened fire. Missiles and energy beams tore through space. The human ship's shields failed immediately. Hull plates melted. Systems exploded. But Amy kept them moving, weaving through the attack, dodging what she could and absorbing what she couldn't. The ship was dying, falling apart around them, but it kept flying. They passed through the battleship formation. Vex's flagship loomed ahead, massive and powerful. Kyle could see Valdari crew scrambling to intercept them. "Reactor critical," Peter shouted. 30 seconds to meltdown. "That's all we need," Kyle said. The flagship tried to move, but it was too slow, too massive. Kyle's ship, burning and broken, crashed directly into the command section. At the moment of impact, the crew activated the emergency ejection system. Escape pods shot out in all directions, away from the collision. Kyle, Lisa, Peter, Amy, and Nicole were thrown clear, just as the reactor exploded. The blast was visible across the entire star system. Vex's flagship broke in half, its command structure destroyed. The Valdari admiral died along with most of his senior officers. The Valdari fleet fell into chaos. Their commander was dead. Their flagship destroyed. The humans had reached their homeworld and struck a devastating blow. Catherine's voice came through on the emergency channel, reaching all the escape pods. "All human forces, retreat now. The message is sent. Get out while you can." The surviving human ships turned and jumped to hyperspace. They had lost 300 vessels and thousands of crew, but they had accomplished their mission. They had scared the entire galaxy. Danny's ship picked up Kyle's escape pod along with a dozen others. The crew reunited on his bridge, bruised and exhausted but alive. "Did it work?" Kyle asked. Catherine's face appeared on the screen. She was crying, but she was smiling too. "It worked. The Valdari are pulling their fleets back to defend their core worlds. They're abandoning the blockades. The last of our people are evacuating now. We're going to save them all. 4 million humans jumping to freedom. Ships disappearing beyond the galactic rim to worlds the Federation had never charted. A new home, far from alien control." Catherine sent one final broadcast to the galaxy before the humans left forever. Her voice was calm and clear. "We are leaving. We will build our own civilization far from your reach. But remember this day. Remember what happens when you push humanity to the edge. We don't start fights, but we finish them." And if you ever find us again, if you ever threaten our children again, we won't run. We'll come for you, all of you. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The last human ship jumped away from Federation space. Behind them, the galaxy was changed forever. News of the battle spread across every world. Some species were horrified by the violence. Others were inspired. The Valdari had always presented themselves as invincible, but humanity had proven that was a lie. Within a year, 3 other species rose up against Valdari rule. The empire that had lasted for 1,000 years began to crumble. The balance of power in the galaxy shifted. Beyond the galactic rim, humanity built new colonies. They remembered the 800,000 children. They remembered the sacrifice of everyone who died fighting for freedom. They built monuments in schools and told the stories to every generation. Kyle retired to a farming colony with Lisa. They married and had children of their own. Every night they looked up at the stars and remembered how far they had come. Peter designed ships for humanity's new fleet. Real warships this time, not converted mining vessels. Ships built to defend their new home if anyone ever threatened them again. Amy trained the next generation of pilots, young people who would never know life under alien rule. People who grew up free. Catherine became humanity's first president in their new government. She led with wisdom and remembered always that freedom was worth any price. Years later, Kyle stood at a memorial on humanity's capital world. 800,000 names carved into black stone. His sister's name was there, along with Amy's family and so many others. A crowd had gathered for the anniversary of the evacuation. Thousands of people, all of them free, all of them safe. Kyle spoke to them. We escaped. We survived. We are free. But we never forget, these children died because we were weak. Because we trusted those who saw us as less than them. Never again. We are humans. We protect our own. And if anyone threatens our children again, they will learn what our enemies learned. He paused, looking at all the faces in the crowd. Humanity does not break. We burn brighter, the crowd cheered. Children played in the gardens around the memorial. Ships flew overhead, carrying supplies to new colonies. Lisa took Kyle's hand as they walked away from the memorial. Their children ran ahead, laughing and free. Do you think they'll ever find us? She asked quietly. Kyle thought about the Valdari Empire crumbling under rebellion. He thought about the legend of humanity spreading across the galaxy. The species that was hunted but refused to die. The species that fought back against impossible odds. Maybe, he said. But if they do, they'll remember what happened last time. And they'll think twice before they threaten us again. The sun was setting on their new world. The sky turned orange and purple. In the distance, construction robots were building.